very much, Leo, and thank you for that warm welcome. It is, in 21 days, it is 20 years since I took a phone call from my mother with these 3 words: love, Dad's died. My father was 47 years old and died of a massive and sudden heart attack. So massive that the doctors later told my mother that my father had passed away before he hit the ground. Since that day in this country, 1 million other families have experienced the same premature loss of a loved one from the #1 killer in almost all nations that have developed. We're at the Asia Pacific Conference for this wonderful company. Just met out the back down on Larson for the first time. And let me tell you about Asia Pacific. If you live in New Zealand, 1 person dies every hour of a heart attack or a stroke. The leading killer of death in New Zealand. If you live in Singapore or Malaysia, 1 person dies every 30 minutes of a heart attack or a stroke. If you live in Australia, 1 person dies every 10 minutes of every day of a heart attack or a stroke. If, to all of my Japanese audience, those people who have travelled so far, your country has a risk profile. There are 7 factors that cause cardiovascular disease or heart and blood vessel disease. One of the major precursors of heart disease is high cholesterol, medically high cholesterol. Every person in Japan who is 30 or under has the same cholesterol profile that we do here in Australia, that we do here in New Zealand, in Malaysia, and Singapore. Because I want to talk to you very briefly about your product that's being launched in an hour or so in this country, Monavie Pulse. I'm not from Monavie, I'm an outsider. What has driven me after that event with my father, I spent 7 years working for the National Heart Foundation of Australia, the preeminent and gold standard education body that tries to get all of us to lower our risk of cardiovascular disease. And for years I've been teaching people 3 things: cardioprotective eating, cardioprotective activity, and cardioprotective attitude. However, we've lost ground because listen to this. Of all the countries I mentioned, except for Japan, who have a beautiful legacy of fine eating that's great for the heart for people who are 30 and above, but that legacy is being eroded for the 30s and belows. And I don't know if many people in the audience know this, some of you do. 50% of every person over the age of 25 in this country and most countries in the Asia Pacific and the rest of the developed world, 50% have medically high cholesterol. And the great challenge with that is, I was saying to someone out the back that here in Australia we currently have 3.5 million people with heart disease. There's an economic study that's been done that projects 25 years ahead of where we're going to end up in this country with heart disease. Imagine this, imagine your career, you start out and you look ahead down the road and you see that there is going to be 6.7 million Australian adults who have heart and blood vessel disease 25 years later. Now that paper that you can access that through my website. I didn't want to bring it today, but it's a scientific paper, you don't need to have it, but it doesn't say it might get to 6.7. These are the words that come from that paper, which was written by 14 professors. These are the words: heart disease will rise to 6.7 million Australian adults. One of the precursors of heart disease is something that happens a long time before you get a heart attack or a stroke. It's called atherosclerosis. It's a hard word to say, you may not have heard of it. Atherosclerosis.